So many songs remain a mystery in terms of their exact meanings, what Prince was trying to say with these songs. And it just so happens we have a series here on the channel called Wordplay, where we kind of dive deep into those lyrics. The last one was for Purple Rain, and this episode is for 7. Hey everybody, welcome back to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. And yes, you heard that right, we're going to be talking about 7, which is a song from the Love Symbol album released in 1992. It actually was the most successful single off of that album because it reached number 3 on the top 40 and number 7 on the Billboard Top 100. As a single, it had a bunch of different versions. I already did a review of that maxi single, so I'll put a link to that in the description. But all in all, 7 is an amazing song. One of my favorite songs, and most anybody who I talk about Prince with usually loves 7. It's got some acoustic guitar, it's got those great harmonies. The video is very elaborate and has tons of amazing dancing and moving and music, and it's just, oh my god, it's such a great song. And some of the lyrics seem like they're very straightforward and simple, but sometimes the context of his songs can change the meaning dramatically. And from all of the discussions that I've had in the community, there are 3 different competing theories. And what I'll say is that all of the theories are likely true, but some are truer than others in certain verses, certain lines. So I'm not gonna say like there's like one definitive definition to what the 7 means, but again, some of them are more true than others. Before we dive too deep into that, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification so you always know when Prince's Friend releases a brand new video. It means a lot to us to have so many followers on the channel, so many patrons at patreon.com/princessfriend, and obviously follow us on social media at PrincessFriendYT on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So theory number 1 is that 7 sets up the movie 3 Chains of Gold. And yeah, there's definitely more meaning to 7 than what is shown to us in the movie. But many believe that the song 7 talks about the 7 assassins who murdered Maite's father in the movie, and how Prince is gonna take them down. But the movie itself kind of seems like an afterthought to me. More so like he wrote the song 7, and then he said, oh well, if the dad's gonna die, let's make it 7 assassins so that I can make that song fit. But anybody who thinks that the movie and the song kind of go hand in hand, I believe that that's true, but it's more of a chicken and egg kind of situation. Theory number 2 is a lot of people think that 7 refers to the 7 deadly sins. And this one's definitely getting closer to the mark. There are biblical references throughout the song, so it makes sense to think, oh, it's the 7 deadly sins. 7 is the number of heaven. It's got a lot of biblical applications. And if you were to take out the 7 deadly sins, then of course, it would be prosperity for all. It would lead to good things. So yeah, of course, definitely. Not a bad guess. I think that's probably part of it, mostly just because of the inspiration for the number 7 and the background of that number in terms of the Bible. But I wouldn't say that it's the most correct. And here's the main one that I believe and that I have heard others talk about. The thing about it is that it's the theory that I've heard talked about only a few times, but has its foundation in a lot of other things. Because Prince always loved to sing about the record industry and how evil it was for artists. And again, I've heard this theory that 7 is about the record industry so many times, but it wasn't until Celebration 2019 where JD Steele kind of confirmed it for me. And then I started digging a little bit deeper. It was in between events at Celebration, and he came out, he was the MC, and as he came out, 7 was still playing, so they were like dying down the song so that everybody could take their seats and whatnot. And he said, you know what? I was there with Prince when he was listening to this song, and I came into the room and I said, Prince, what is 7 about? And Prince told me, well, there are 7 major record labels, and one day we're gonna see them all fall. And today there's only 3, so I guess he was right. And I was like, oh my god, that's so interesting that like JD Steele just like dropped some knowledge on us here. And JD Steele from the Steels, who worked a lot with Prince and Mavis Staples and all of that stuff. And the 3 that JD was referring to are Sony BMG, Universal Music Group, and Warner Music Group. But in the 90s, where Prince was talking about the 7, there was also Polygram, which was purchased and folded into Universal Music in 1998. MCA, which was largely dissolved in 2003, BMG, which joined with Sony into Sony BMG in 2004, and EMI, which was bought up by Universal in 2012. So weirdly, even though Prince was right that there are definitely fewer major record labels still around, they have also kind of consolidated power and are bordering on monopolies now. Monopolies of an industry that doesn't necessarily exist in the same way anymore, but monopolies nonetheless. So the idea that Seven is about the record labels actually does change a lot of the meaning of each of the lines. So let's go into the lyrics themselves and let's talk about how each lyric kind of conforms to each of the different theories. So the chorus tells a large part of the story. All seven, and we will watch them fall. We will be here, and we aren't even necessary for the fall of the seven. We're gonna watch them fall. It's not make them fall. We're gonna watch them fall because they're just gonna fall regardless of what we do. They're just gonna collapse under the own weight of their uselessness. But when you get into the next line, if they stand in the way of love, we will smoke them all. You have to remember again, love is God and God is love. Prince said this a long time ago. So you have to understand that most times when he says love, he might be talking about love in general, but he's definitely also talking about God. So when Prince says they stand in the way of love and we will smoke them all, which is a more direct statement against the record companies fighting against his positivity in his music. But in the end, he knows that God will win. Prince around this time was also inserting more and more spirituality in his life and in his music. And many people think that some of his religious messages and all of that stuff in his music, even in the 90s, was too blatant, and it was a reason why he wasn't selling as well. Even though on one of his most popular albums, Diamonds and Pearls, it starts off singing about Jesus. I mean, come on. Love can also obviously mean love between two people, love between groups, love between humanity. That whole idea of love for one another, that's kind of encompassed in here when he says love. So the I am yours, you are mine, together we'll love through all space and time, that's saying that that love is gonna see us through any adversity that we're going to see in the future. And again, this song is very kind of apocalyptic, something he was really well known for writing apocalyptic type of songs. But this song specifically is about the record industry, so he's like, hey look, the bad things, the companies, they're gonna fall, and we're still gonna be around because we love each other. And that's just the chorus. Let's go ahead and go into verse 1. The first half of verse 1 starts laying out the story. An angel, a servant of heaven, came to Prince, like a reflection of his time back when he recorded Lovesexy and had that spiritual epiphany. In the angel's hand is a key. That's definitely a reference to the keys to the kingdom in the Bible, and these are the things that a person can do to get into heaven. These are what the keys are. Next, he says that these keys that are given to him are words of compassion, words of peace. Prince was largely trying to fight against a lot of what was popular at the time, and if you remember the early to mid 90s, that meant violent gangster rap and super depressing grunge rock and boy bands. I don't know how we're supposed to feel about that. I don't know if that plays a factor here. And the Army's marching feet line is him saying like, I'm standing there, I'm having this epiphany, and I hear the bad stuff coming towards me. Like, I know that I'm about to have to make a choice in a moment here. Then we get into the second half of the first verse, when he says, laying down on the sand and the sea, before us animosity will stand and decree. And that laying down is honestly an admission on his part. He's laying down his arms. He's like, I'm not gonna really put up that much of a fight. Animosity is what he's calling his enemies in the song, the record companies in the song. And they are stating that everything you're saying is a lie. All that love, you're just trying to manipulate people. You don't speak of love, you speak of blasphemy. And even Prince at this point needed to wonder, like, is he actually spreading love? Is he doing God's work? Or does him being in league with the record companies make it impossible for him to truly do that? And that's where we get into the next line, and the next line is huge. And that's, in the distance, 6 others will curse me. And to me, I think in the moment, he was convinced that he was wrong. Likely, this is obviously a fictionalized version of him signing that 1992 contract, where he was kind of lured into making this terrible deal that is only going to stifle him even more. And then he's obviously realizing, he's like, oh my gosh, this was totally the wrong thing. But saying 6 others will curse me means he's the 7th one. He's part of it. But of course, at the end of the verse, he's saying, but it's cool, right? I made my mistake here, but God's gonna come fix it anyway. And then goes into the chorus again of God taking all the 7 and striking them down, even him. I think that's why in the video you're seeing different depictions of Prince and he's striking them down. He's like, that's me when I was part of the system. That's me when I was part of Warner Brothers, and that needs to die. And this is part of his transition into becoming the symbol. He had to let the old Prince die for him to become here. And it's only through God that he was seeing that that's how he could do that. Then we get into the second verse, and second verse is largely apocalyptic lyrics, spelling out that God is coming for his enemies and that everything here, including himself, because he's part of the problem, is gonna be wiped out. But don't worry, because a new world awaits those who are loyal to their principles and everyone who comes after, including new lives that your soul will take on in the future. The world of music and recording is dying, it's being destroyed, and Prince is part of that. Prince needed to be destroyed. But Prince now, as the artist formerly known as Prince, as the unpronounceable symbol, and those who now support him are going to live on much farther into the future because they've divorced themselves from this conglomeration, this huge force. And they will be standing there, victorious. The rest of the second verse essentially amounts to describing an amazing utopia that will arise when God has vanquished the evil from the world, when all of the record companies are gone and artists are free to create as they want. He's saying that it'll essentially be heaven on earth, with streets of gold and no death and everybody gathering together with a voice of many colors. But the only way for that to happen is for evil to fall. 7 is by far one of my very favorite songs because the lyrics are amazing and the visuals in the video create this imagery that goes so well along with the lyrics that they tell an amazing story together. But they also tell that story without telling it. There's a lot of clever wordplay here. He describes it. He says you're gonna fall, there's gonna be a river of blood, and when you're gone, the streets will be paved with gold and no one will die. He's not saying God's gonna smite you and bring heaven on earth, because that's too easy. These lyrics are amazing. They really paint the picture for you. And that is the beauty of Prince's songwriting skills. He was truly a master, and 7 is just one example of that. But I want to know what you guys think about my interpretation of 7 and any other theories that you might have heard. Let me know about all of that down in the comments. Let's continue the discussion down there. Also, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, and go check out our Patreon. Patreon.com/princessfriend is the most direct and biggest way that you can support the channel here so that I can continue to make the amazing content that we have here on Princess Friend. It helps out more than you would think. Even $1 helps out more than you would think, trust me. And with all of that said, may you live to see the dawn. I love you all. See you in the next video.